We will finish John chapter 1 today. Depends how quickly you listen. We're going to begin at verse 43. John chapter 1, verse 43. So mine says, the following day, Jesus wanted to go to Galilee. He found Philip, and he said to him, follow me. So Jesus, as you remember, is with John the Baptist. He is up until this point, the 3 days we had with John the Baptist. Now he's leaving that area and going on to Galilee. This is probably 20 miles, a 20-mile walk that he is taking to go to Galilee. And it says that he found Philip, right? So don't miss that. He found Philip. He was looking for Philip, and he found him. He was seeking Philip. He was seeking after Philip, and he found him. He gives him what? No. Oh, I don't need it. Anyway, he gives him these very detailed instructions. Follow me, right? It's interesting that that we see "follow me" over and over in the New Testament, but it's only Jesus that ever uses that statement, "Follow me." Right? Nobody else actually ever says that. It shows a level of authority that he has. Again, John is trying to make sure we understand the authority of Christ, and so it shows a level of authority by him just saying, "Follow me," and the people following him. Right? The allegiance that they have to him because of what he said. If we look at other places, and we're not going to turn to all of them, but in Matthew chapter 4, verse 19, he says to the disciples, right? Then he said to them, follow me, and I will make you fishers of men, right? I'll make you fishers of men. In John chapter 10, he makes this statement. He says, my sheep hear my voice. I know them, and they follow me, right? They hear my voice. I know them, and they follow me, right? I'm seeking after them. I found them just like I found Philip here, and they follow me because they know my voice and they know who I am. Now, of course, when he says they follow me, right, he's not just saying that they followed him down the road. He meant a lot more than that. So let me just pause. I know it's early, and I know there's a small crowd, but when he says follow me, what is Jesus saying?
Watch what I do, listen to what I say, learn from what I tell you.
Yeah. I'm sorry, something else?
And to add on to Curtis, to do what I do. I think it's the whole concept, right? Follow me. I'm going some places right now, but it's change your life to follow like my life.
Good. Yeah, somebody else?
Yeah, I was going to say, like today we get degrees in arts or science or whatever. And you kind of get a degree in a person back in those times, and he's like saying, hey, come and do what I do because this will lead you where you need to go.
Yeah, it's good.
Follow the rabbi.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. Okay. All good. And the thing I wanted to, you guys have pointed it out well, right? It's more than just attend church, right? More than just go to a Bible study. It really is about a relationship with him, right? Follow me, listen to me, understand who I am. It's really about following Jesus, right? And it's just not about doing things. So that's great. All right. Verse 44. Now Philip was from Bethsaida, the city of Andrew and Peter, right? So Bethsaida is a fishing village. It's where Andrew and Peter were from, obviously. But it's interesting, you go right from 43 to 44. Jesus says, "Follow me," and there's no questioning by Philip. Well, where are we going, and what are we going to do, and what's it all about, Alfie? And he just follows him. He just there's no argument. There's no conditions. There's no anything. He just left it. He left it all, and he follows him. Well, we'll get to that in a minute. All right, let's go on to 45. So 45, Philip found Nathanael and said to him, we have found him of whom Moses in the law and also the prophets wrote, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph. So here, I mean, in verse 43, Jesus finds Philip. He tells him to follow him. By the time we get to 45, Philip is already out witnessing, right? Is already out going after Nathanael and bringing him with this amazing statement about him, right? That we have found him of whom Moses and the law and also the prophets wrote, this Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph. I mean, it's an amazing transformation between verse 43 and 45. And we see this over and over again with the disciples. They begin, they're just following him. They're just listening to him. They're just learning from him. And then very quickly, they're going out and finding others and bringing them into him. It's kind of an amazing statement, amazing transformation that Philip. Now, notice it says also that Philip found Nathanael, right? So he was searching for Nathanael. He's going after Nathanael and trying to find him. And then again, let's look at the statement that he makes, right? That we have found him of whom Moses and the law wrote, and also the prophets wrote. So we looked at some of this before, but let me remind you. We go all the way back to Genesis chapter 49, and I've got these written down. You can look at them if you like. But Genesis 49, verse 10, it says this. It says, the scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh comes, and to him shall be the obedience of the people. So this until Shiloh comes is another name for the Messiah. So all the way back in Genesis, we have this foretelling about Shiloh coming, about the Messiah coming. And there's many places in the Old Testament where we see this. We actually looked at one last week or 2 weeks ago in Deuteronomy 18:15, right? It says, the Lord your God will raise up for you a prophet like me from your midst, from your brethren, him you shall hear. And as we've seen in other places in Scripture, this prophet is identified as Jesus, right? So again, in Genesis and Deuteronomy, both, obviously, these are the books of Moses. So when it says here that, we found him from whom Moses wrote, right? Moses wrote in Genesis and Deuteronomy. Those are the books that are generally ascribed to Moses. He wrote about this Messiah, this one who is coming, this prophet. Then he says, and also the prophets wrote, and you know very well that many times in the prophets there are writings about Jesus. I do want you to go ahead and turn to Isaiah chapter 53, and let's look at that prophecy about the Messiah, about what we come to think of as the suffering servant version of the Messiah there in Isaiah 53. I just want to read that to you again, just to remind you of what it says here. So Isaiah 53, beginning at verse 1. It says, who has believed our report, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? For he has grown up before him as a tender plant, and as a root out of the dry ground. For he has no form or comeliness, and when we see him, there is no beauty that we should desire him. He is despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows, acquainted with grief. And we hid, as it were, our faces from him. He was despised, we did not esteem him. Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows. Yet we esteemed him stricken, smitten by God, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement for our peace was upon him, and by his stripes we are healed. All we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned every one to his own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed, he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. He was led as a lamb to the slaughter. As a sheep before his shearers is silent, so he opened not his mouth. He was taken from prison and from judgment, and who will declare his generation? For he was cut off from the land of the living. For the transgressions of my people he was stricken. And they made his grave with the wicked, but with the rich at his death, because he had done no violence, nor was any deceit in his mouth. Yet it pleased the Lord to bruise him, for he has put him to grief. When you make his soul an offering for sin, you shall see his seed, he shall prolong his days, and the pleasure of the Lord shall prosper in his hand. You shall see the labor of his soul and be satisfied by his knowledge. My righteous servant shall justify many, for he shall bear their iniquities. Therefore I divide him as a portion with the great, that shall divide the spoil with the strong, because he poured out his soul unto death, and he was numbered with the transgressors, and he bore the sin of many, and made intercession for the transgressors. I know that's a long passage, but there's so much prophecy in there about Christ and about what happened to him and how he served as our payment for sin, that I just felt it necessary to remind you of all of that. And so when John here speaks about this is also said in the prophets, this is what he's speaking about. He's speaking about what Isaiah has said here. And then there's another passage in Jeremiah, just a couple of verses in Jeremiah 23, 5 and 6. Let me read those to you. He says, behold, the days are coming, says the Lord, that I will raise to David a branch of righteousness. A king shall reign and prosper and execute judgment and righteousness in the earth. In his days, Judah will be saved, and Israel will dwell safely. And this is the name by which he shall be called, the Lord of righteousness. So again, we just see over and over in the Old Testament, I'm just picking two examples out, right? Where Philip is saying to Nathanael, we have found him. We have found him who Moses talked about. We have found him who the prophets talked about. So I think at that point, Nathanael is going, okay, I gotcha. I know who this is. This is the Messiah. Excellent, wonderful, great, incredible. I'm so excited about this. But then he says, oh, and by the way, it's Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph. And I think this is where Nathanael kind of goes off the rail. It's like, whoa, Jesus of Nazareth, son of Joseph. This is a nobody from a nothing city, right? I think this is where he loses Nathanael. Actually, of course, Jesus is the Son of God from Bethlehem, but they all they know at this point, this is Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph. And I think, Philip's trying to tell him this is the Messiah, this is the suffering servant. But then when he gets to Nazareth, son of Joseph, I mean, I think he goes off the rail, and that's why we see his reaction in 46. 46, and Nathanael said to him, can anything good come out of Nazareth? Right? I mean, are you kidding me? Nazareth? Yeah. Now you got to remember, Nathanael was from Cana. We get that information later on in the gospel. And by the way, Nathanael is also known as Bartholomew later on in the other gospels. So Nathanael was from Cana. It was a neighboring city to Nazareth. So they knew all about those Nazarenes, right? They knew what a mess those people were, because they live right next door. It's kind of like the people of Hampton think about, nothing good could come out of Newport News. You know what I mean? I mean, no way. I think that he has a prejudice, right, against the people of Nazareth. That comes through very clearly here. Can anything good come out of Nazareth? Philip then responds with this amazing statement, right? Philip said to him, come and see. Now, this is exactly the same statement that Jesus has made, right, up to Andrew earlier, right? Come and see, follow me, come and see. Philip didn't argue with Nazareth, didn't try to convince, oh no, Nazareth, it's a nice place. There's some good people there, right? There was no arguing with Peter about Nazareth. You could easily, from Nathanael's statement, you could easily get into a bunch of different arguments, right? And he didn't go there. He also didn't point out to Nathanael his prejudice, his sin, right? Hey, Nathanael, you've got a real problem here. You got a problem with prejudice. You really ought to do something about that, right? He also didn't get into a theological debate with him about where the Messiah should come from, and maybe you're thinking about this wrong, and blah 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 blah. So this is the problem that we often have when it comes to evangelism, or when it comes to us telling someone about Christ. We start getting you into an argument, we start getting into some details that are outside the fundamentals, or we start pointing out how someone is a sinner and they need to really clean up their act, right? Or we get into some deep theological message. And what was Philip's response? Come and see, right? Come and see who this Jesus is. Come and see what he's all about. Come and experience him. And then we can talk about that other stuff. Then we can talk about your sin. Then we can talk about the theological of where the Messiah comes from, etc. I'm just afraid sometimes we get in our heads a little bit too mixed up and think, well, I can't, I don't know the answers to all the questions that somebody might ask me if I start talking to them about Christ. Well, all Jesus wants you to do is say, come and see, come and learn about him, come and listen to him, come and watch what he's done. Evangelism is about simply saying, come and see. All right, verse 47. We are moving through this. You are listening well today. Verse 47. Jesus saw Nathanael coming toward him and said to him, behold, an Israelite indeed, in whom is no deceit. So first of all, Jesus saw Nathanael coming toward him. First of all, Jesus knows this is Nathanael, right? He knows it's Nathanael because he saw Nathanael coming toward him. And he says to him, behold, an Israelite indeed, in whom is no deceit or no guile, depending on your translations. No hypocrisy would be another way to say it. But behold, an Israelite indeed. I want you actually to go back to Genesis chapter 27, to a story that you know. So if you could turn there to Genesis 27. Verse 34, we're going to pick up in the middle of this story, but you'll recognize the story right off. In Genesis chapter 27, verse 34, we have here the story of these two brothers, Esau and Jacob. All right, so Genesis 27, verse 34 says, when Esau heard his father's words, he burst out with a loud and bitter cry and said to his father, bless me too, my father. But he said, your brother came deceitfully and took your blessing. Esau said, isn't he rightly named Jacob? So the story you remember, right, is that Jacob and Esau were brothers. Esau was actually the eldest brother. Jacob comes in here to fool his father and get his father's blessing for the firstborn. He does so by fixing the father's favorite soup that Esau would have fixed for him. He puts sheepskin on his arm, so he's hairy like Esau, right? And he comes in and he convinces Isaac that he is the firstborn, and so Isaac gives him the blessing of the firstborn. And then we pick up the story here in these verses where Esau hears this. He bursts into the room and says, whoa, whoa, whoa. You can't give him that blessing. Give the blessing to me. And, Isaac's like, sorry, brother, man, he's already done it. I've already given it to Jacob. I can't give it to you because your brother came in deceitfully and took your blessing. And then what I really wanted to focus on was the last statement, right? Esau said, isn't he rightly named Jacob, right? Because Jacob, do you remember what Jacob meant? Nobody?
One of the things was, it says he grasped the heel, was one of them, but then it also says he deceives.
Yeah, the deceiver is what I was trying to get to, right? What Esau is saying, he's rightly named Jacob because he deceived you. Jacob meaning the deceiver, and he's saying that he has deceived him. Now we know that later on Jacob's name gets changed. Do you remember what to?
Israel,
right? Jacob becomes Israel, right? And Israel is, and you remember when that occurs? You remember when that occurs that he changes his name?
When he wrestled with God.
When he wrestles with God. We're going to get to that story a little bit later because that's an important part of what's going on here also. But God changes his name. We talked about Jesus changing Simon's name to Peter a little bit earlier, and now we see here the story about God changing Jacob's name to Israel. Now, having said all that, now let's go back to the passage that we have in 47, right? So Jesus saw Nathanael coming towards him, and he says, "Behold, an Israelite indeed, in whom there is no deceit." So this is an Israelite indeed. This is someone who has had their name changed. This is someone who is not Jacob, who is not the deceiver, right? In whom there is no deceit. This is someone who tells it like it is, if you will, right? No hypocrisy, but he is a true Israelite. He has moved from deceit to the new name Israelite. So this is Jacob's excuse me, this is Nathanael's first aha about this man, right? That he looks at him, knows who he is, knows that he is an Israelite and someone that is not a deceiving Israelite, not in the forte of Jacob, but rather more like Israel in his new name. So that's the first indication that Nathanael has something is interesting about this guy. And so he responds then in verse
48.
Yeah, I was actually looking at my notes to see there's something else I want to say. I'm trying to decide when to say it. We'll bring it back in a minute. Verse 48, right? So, yeah, go ahead.
I just want to share a little different. When I first read that, something that came to mind, and I don't know if anybody else will do or not, but I sort of looked at Nathaniel as having a little doubt now on this Jesus since he made that comment about where he came from. But when Jesus saw him, it's like and I relate this to real life, like you might be going to meet somebody and you're sort of skeptical, you don't know anything about them, but the first thing that stranger says is a compliment to you. And it sort of changes your whole attitude toward that person because of the nice thing they said to him, right? What the nice thing Jesus said right off.
Yeah, good, Curtis. Good. So this was my pause and hesitation a moment ago. So let me go there now that you've opened the door. So that's great. So no, that's wonderful, right? So this is God directing the message, which is what I love. Jesus sees Nathanael. Jesus knows that Nathanael has said what he has said in verse 46, right? I mean, it's not like he's ignorant. He sees Nathanael coming. He knows that Nathanael has made this statement and has a prejudice in his heart, right? Has sinned in his heart. But he says to him, he has no guile, he has no deceit. Now, Nathanael is not perfect. There's some people who read verse 47, they say, well, behold, an Israelite indeed, meaning, oh, look, someone who's just wonderful and got it all together. There's no guile in him. No, there's no guile in him, but there is prejudice in him, right? There is sin in him. But Jesus sees him as an Israelite, sees him as what he could be, right? But at the same time, he knows what's inside of him. He knows there's prejudice in him. He knows there's no guile in him. He knows his character. He knows what Nathanael is thinking. He knows what's going on inside his head. And I think also Jesus knows, okay, prejudice. I can work with prejudice. We can help him see his prejudice. We can help him grow past his prejudice. But hypocrisy is what trapped the Pharisees, right? If you had hypocrisy, if you had guile, if you had deceit, you get trapped and you can't see your own problems. You can't see your own issues. So I really think this is really an interesting passage that Jesus, he sees Nathanael, he sees him, he understands him, he knows who he is, he knows both the prejudice and the no hypocrisy, and he says, I can work with that. I can help him through that prejudice as long as he doesn't have hypocrisy, as long as he'll admit that he's a sinner, as long as that he'll admit that there's things that need to be worked on because he does not have deceit. That's something I can work with. So I think Yeah, I think this interaction is so important. Now, one thing, Jesus knows Nathaniel from the inside out. He knows my, and you know what? He knows the same about us, right?
Yeah.
He he knows my character. He knows what I'm thinking. He knows what's going on behind the scenes. And you got to always ask this question: does that unnerve you or comfort you? We're going to get back to that in a minute.
So,
All right.
so
Go
I
ahead.
was thinking, you were explaining that, I was thinking, so what kind of character was Nathaniel? To me, just my opinion, he seems like he's his own man. He's got his own opinions. He's not going along to get along. He's not really concerned about social status, but he does have some prejudice.
Yeah.
But
He's got some rough edges that need to be cleaned up. But yeah, I think that's a good assessment, Russell.
My Bible has different words that make it sound a little bit not as harsh as y'all are making it sound. Like, it says, here is a true Israelite in whom there is nothing false.
Yeah. There's nothing false. There's no deceit. He tells the truth. But we can't ignore verse 46, right? Where there's obviously he has prejudice. So both things are true. It's just like us, right? There's some good stuff about us, but there's also some messy stuff about us, right?
Well, even his second comment is an implication of what he thinks about people from Israel, or from what's it called?
Nazareth.
Yeah. I mean, so he thinks that all those people are deceitful. That's what he thinks. I mean, that's the way I think that this particular one has no deceit. So all the rest of them do. That's what even that second comment to me is.
Well, he's really talking about Israelites, though, not particularly Nazareans, but he is saying that this particular Israelite is a true Israelite, i.e., he's not like Jacob. He doesn't have deceit in him. But let's keep going because we're going to come back to this as an important point. So we're going to not leave it. All right. So verse 48, however, he says, so how do you know me? How do you know who I am? We've never met before. How do you know who I am? And Jesus answers him with this incredible statement. Jesus answered and said, before Philip called you, when you were under the fig tree, I saw you. So don't miss in that, Philip was the one to go and find Nathaniel, but Jesus was the one who was seeking Nathaniel. Right? Jesus was already connected with Nathaniel, already knew about Nathaniel before Philip ever arrived there. It's interesting that in the commentaries, there's several interpretations of this when you were under the fig tree, which I find interesting. So it could be the simplest way, or the way on the surface that you pick up on it is, well, he was resting under a fig tree, maybe contemplating, thinking, pondering. Maybe he has heard about Jesus and is thinking about who he is. Right? He's under that fig tree, and so Jesus is saying here, before Philip ever got there, before Philip called you, when you were under that fig tree, I saw you. I saw you there. And by the way, I knew what you were thinking. I knew what was going on in your head, right? I saw you there, and I saw you under that fig tree. Because perhaps Nathaniel had heard rumors about Jesus, right? And he's thinking about him there. And so Jesus is just saying, before Philip called you, when you were under the fig tree, I saw you there, and I saw what you were thinking. And so I know that you are a person without guile. The second interpretation I find intriguing, and that is, if you remember when Jesus was born, Herod did something. Do you remember what Herod did when Jesus was born?
he was killing all the newly baby boys. Yeah.
He was killing all the baby boys, right? He was killing all the baby boys during that, when Jesus was born in the region. And so one of the commentaries, what this could be is that What did the mothers do during that time? They hid their babies. One of the places they hid their babies was in hollows of trees. So Jesus could actually be referring to Nathanael here, when you were a baby and your mother hid you under the fig tree, I saw you. I've seen you your whole life, Nathanael. I know everything about your life. I have been watching you. I know who you are. I know where you've been. I know what you've been thinking. Way before Philip called you, when you were under the fig tree, I saw you. I just think that's a cool way to think about this. We don't know exactly what he meant. All we know is certainly before Philip got there, before this human interaction, there was a spiritual interaction that had already gone on. And I think that that's also something really important for us to consider when we think about talking to someone about Jesus. We got to realize if it is something that God wants, he's already gone ahead. He's already prepared the ground. He's already seen Nathanael under the fig tree before you ever get there. Before you ever speak a word to someone about Christ, Jesus has already seen what is in Nathanael's mind. He's already given him the rumors. He's already spoke to him through other people. Jesus saw him there. So this is Nathanael's second aha, right? I mean, the first aha was he knows what I'm thinking. He knows who I am, and he sees me no matter where I am. Jesus knows our internal and our external condition. God sees you under your fig tree, and he knows what's going on in your life, in your mind, and in your heart. God sees you under your fig tree. He knows what's going on. Good.
I was just thinking it's interesting that Nathanael recognized him as the Son of God, as the Messiah, the coming Messiah, instantly when he spoke to him. But yet the Pharisees could never recognize Jesus for who he really was.
Right.
So there's something to that. I chose you. You didn't choose me.
Right. Right. We're going to get to that in 49. That's good. I want to make sure you got this, right?
Yeah.
And what he's saying here is you are never in a situation that nobody knows about. Sometimes we get in, nobody knows the trouble I've seen, right? Nobody knows but Jesus. He knows the situation. He knows what's going on in your head. He knows what's going on physically around you. He knows. That old statement, right? Do you know where your children are? Well, he does. He knows where his children are. He knows what's going on in their lives. This ought to be a great comfort to you. He knows my inside, my character. He knows what I'm thinking. But again, I would ask the question, does this comfort you or unnerve you? Kind of depends where you are relative to sin, doesn't it? All right, let's go to Russell's point now in verse 49. Nathanael answered and said to him, Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel. As Russell said, that is an amazing statement, an amazing, fascinating statement from this guy who is underneath a fig tree, who was just found by Philip, right? He comes into him. Jesus makes these couple of statements to him. And because Nathanael seeing his omniscience, right? That he understands that this person can see all things and know all things. He believes. He knows who he is.
Hey, Rich, do you think this will be like when we approach the throne of God when we go to heaven and we see God face to face? Do you think it'll be that same realization? This is God. I believed in him by faith, and now he is here. That moment of realization that this is who I believe.
I think, Russell, that I don't think we have to wait till then. I think God wants us to see him more clearly all the time, right? And understand, wow, this is really God. Only God could have done that. Only God could have helped me to understand that. Only God could have put those things together, right? I really think this is our learning to experience him, us seeing Jesus, right? Us seeing Jesus more and more. I think I don't think we're supposed to wait until we get to heaven to see God and to see Jesus for who he really is. That's what we're supposed to be learning and growing in now.
Hey, Rich.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm assuming, I mean, their age came in my mind. I mean, just another, another thing that, signifies or makes it, I mean, Jesus has got to be what, in his early 30s, and he's talking to Nathaniel, who's got to be in his early 30s, because should have been killed at the same time Jesus was, as far as the babies go. And this guy knows his life history. It's like, that's this guy who's my age knows that I was hid under a fig tree by my mom. And he knows all this stuff. I mean, just one more reason that, I mean, you would think, this guy's an elder, and he's, 70, 80 years old, so he knows all that history, but he's right there with him and knows it.
Yeah. Again, we sometimes have gotten over the freaky craziness of what is going on here, right? That this could be possible. And so this is why, so again, look at what Nathaniel says. Rabbi or teacher, you are the son of God. Wait a minute. He was just told he's the son of Joseph back in verse 45, right? And between 45 and 49, all of a sudden he's saying, you're the son of God. Wow. What a transition, right? From, oh, nothing good can come out of Nazareth. He's the son of Joseph, whoever that guy is, of Nazareth. Now he's the son of God. What a trend. So let me just show you a couple of things in the Old Testament, because I want you to understand what Nathaniel is saying when he says, you are the son of God, you are the king of Israel. I want to go back to a passage in 2 Samuel chapter 7. Second Samuel chapter 7, verse 12. Let me read that to you. 2 Samuel chapter 7, verse 12 says, when your days are fulfilled and you rest with your fathers, I will set up your seed after you, who will come from your body, and I will establish his kingdom. He shall build a house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. I will be his father, and he shall be my son. If he commits iniquity, I will chasten him with the rod of men and with the blows of the sons of men. So here you see, again, a foretelling of the Messiah, and he says he's going to be a king, and he's going to be my son. So this is one of the passages that Nathaniel is referring back to when he says, you are the son of God. You are this one that he's going to send to build this house, to establish this kingdom. You are the king of Israel, right? As has been foretold by the prophets over and over again. In Psalm, you don't have to turn there, but in Psalm chapter 2, verses 2, it says, yet I have set my king on my holy hill of Zion. I will declare the decree. The Lord has said to me, you are my son. Today I have begotten you, right? I have set my king, and that is my son. So this is when Nathaniel is saying, hey, this is the son of God, this is the king of Israel, he is definitely going back to those messianic passages and saying, I see now that this is him. And simply because of his omniscience, right? That's all he got. He didn't see anything else but his omniscience. That was enough to convince him this is the Son of God. This is the King of Israel. Now, this is what Nathaniel meant when he said that. But I also want you to think about, why is John including this passage in here and these statements by Nathaniel into his gospel, right? If you, I want you to look at a couple of passages in John. So go to John chapter 8. And unfortunately, these are not in order. Apologize for that, but they tell a story this way. In John chapter 8, verse 58, John 8:58. Jesus answers and said to them, most assuredly I say to you, before Abraham was, I am. Right? So Jesus here is using the I am name, right? He's saying that he is God in that statement. Sure, I say to you, before Abraham was, I am, or I am, Yahweh, I am God. And go to John chapter 10, verse 32. John 10:32 says, Jesus answered them, many good works I have shown you from my Father. From which of those works do you stone me? The Jews answered him, saying, for a good work we do not stone you, but for blasphemy, and because you, being a man, make yourself God. And go back to John chapter 5. And I apologize for these not being in order. John chapter 5, verse 18. John 5:18 says, therefore the Jews sought all the more to kill him, because he not only broke the Sabbath, but also said that God was his Father, making himself equal with God. And then finally in John 19, at the end of the book, John 19, verse 7, John 19:7, and the Jews answered him, talking to Pilate, we have a law, and according to our law, he ought to die because he made himself the Son of God. Right? So John, the writer, is saying, hey, Nathaniel here is saying, this is the Son of God. This is the King of Israel. They are here, as John has done from the very, very beginning, from verse 1 of chapter 1, right? The word is God. He's saying it now through Nathaniel, right? You are the Son of God. You are equal to God. You are the King of Israel, right? And again, this is why Jesus was killed, right? Because he made himself equal to God. And that was blasphemy in the Israelites' eyes. And all through the book of John, it becomes clearer and clearer and clearer that he is claiming to be God. And it's becoming more and more deadly as Jesus speaks about it. Jesus is making it very clear to them that he is the Son of God, that he is equal with God, that he is God. Because again, Jesus had a mission. Jesus had a mission to come and to die. And he is setting up the Israelites through these words. And we see the beginning of it here through Nathaniel's words. You are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel. All right.
Hey, Rich.
Yeah, go ahead.
One thing I was thinking about this too is when you were teaching First John, he spent that time in the beginning on testimony and just how important it was, even like to the Jewish society to have a man. Unfortunately, back then it was men, but to have a man testify that this is true, because that carried a lot of weight back then.
Remember, 2 or 3 witnesses, right? You always had to have 2 or 3 witnesses. So now we've heard from John the Baptist, right? Now we're hearing from Philip, Nathaniel, all of the disciples as they're speaking who this man is. Yep, good point. All right, verse 50 then. Jesus answered and said to him, because I said to you, I saw you under a fig tree, do you believe? You will see greater things than these. Right, so again, he's saying, you believe because you saw my omniscience, because you saw that I said to you, I saw you under the fig tree. But he says, you're going to see greater things than these. What are the greater things that he was talking about?
back from the dead.
Yeah, healing people,
Yeah, healing people, yeah.
yeah.
So no question, they're going to see miracles and lots of them. Raising people from the dead, feeding 5,000, walking on water, sight to the blind, like, right, walking to the lame, et cetera, et cetera. What else? Far greater things than these you will see. Far greater things than these you will see.
You see his ascension.
Yeah. They see his ascension.
Heaven.
Heaven, the next verse.
Heaven. Yeah, we'll get to the next verse in a minute because that does help clarify this, but I want you to think about it for a minute here.
I don't think he sees the transfiguration, does he?
No.
There with us.
Nathaniel does not, right?
He's talking about all the city,
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
all the miracles that he's about to do.
All the miracles, right? So I guess the thing I want you to stretch a little bit and realize, Jesus, remember what does he say in the beginning? Come and see. Come and see. And we said when we said that was just not about coming and seeing his miracles, coming and seeing all the things that he will do. It was coming and seeing him.
Yeah.
Coming and seeing him, who he is. Who he is. So Nathaniel understands some level who he is. And Jesus says, you're going to understand at a whole completely new level who I am.
Yeah.
You
And
understand.
he also, Rich, that he's going to transform his life. He's going to change him permanently forever.
Absolutely. He's going to change all of his thinking, all of his acting. Everything about him is going to change. You're going to see a greater transformation in yourself. You're going to see greater things than these, just that I can talk about you under the fig tree. You're going to see your life changed. You're going to see yourself become something else, something new, right? You're going to see me and you're going to see you, not just those miracles. We get kind of stuck on the miracles. That's
Hey,
not,
Rick,
yeah, go ahead.
last week you brought something up, but you said you weren't gonna tell us the answer yet till we got to it, but it was about, and I can't remember all about it, but some couple people asked John about Jesus while John the Baptist was in prison. And he told them to go ask himself. Go to Jesus himself and ask him. And you didn't really explain that, but I sort of thought what you just said, he wanted them to see Jesus face to face. And that they would get more out of it than John the Baptist just telling them.
Yeah, we actually, Curtis, we don't get that till like chapter 4, I think, when that story comes up. So I'm not going to explain it till then.
I say that if somebody asked me that question, I didn't know
That's
the
fun.
right answer. I mean, I don't know if I gave them the right answer or not. I said, I really don't know for sure.
I like the answer you gave for now.
All right, well, I'm gonna tell my Sunday school teacher just.
Oh. Yeah, yeah.
You know, we've heard the statement, seeing is believing, right? Scripture actually tries to tell us something else, and that is believing is seeing. Believing who Jesus is, then you actually see. Because you have faith, you will see. You see who he really is. You see who yourself really is, am, was. You see yourself because of faith. Because of who he is, you see differently, right? So I do have a question for you, and that is, are you seeing greater things than these? Because I think he's saying that to us also. You will see greater things than just this omniscience thing, frankly, just these miracle things, you're going to see greater things than that. Have you seen greater things? I just ask you to ponder that. Jesus said you would. I hope you are. I hope you see greater things in yourself. I just hope you see greater things in the people around you, in the people that you're touching, in the people that are coming to Christ because of your witness. Verse 51. He said to him, most assuredly, oh wow, look how much time we don't have. Most assuredly, I say to you, hereafter, you shall see the heaven open, the angels of God ascending and descending upon the Son of Man. So I was going to go and read Genesis 28, where it talks about Jacob's ladder. This is absolutely a reference to Jacob's ladder, right? And in Jacob's ladder, you see God reaffirming the covenant. So I would love for you to go and read that sometime afterwards, Genesis 28, 11 to 19, to just remind yourself. But Jesus is referring to Jacob's ladder here, and he's saying that, on that ladder, the angels of God are descending and descending. And then he says, upon the Son of Man. Upon the Son of Man. This is an interesting statement. This is the designation that Jesus uses for himself that nobody else uses. Nobody else calls him Son of Man. Only he says, I am the Son of Man. And one of the reasons he uses because a passage in Daniel, you may want to write this down again to look up later. I'll read it to you. Daniel 7, 13 to 14 says, in my vision at night I looked, and therefore before me was one like the Son of Man, coming from the clouds of heaven. He approached the Ancient of Days. Remember when we looked at Daniel, that was God, and was led into his presence. He was given authority, glory, power. All nations and peoples of every language worshiped him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion that will not pass away. His kingdom is one that will never be destroyed. There's no question that when Jesus uses the term Son of Man here, he's referring his listeners back to that picture, that idea of Daniel as being that one who has come to have authority, glory, power over all nations. Now, he says here that hereafter, or henceforth, or from now on, you're going to see heaven open. You're going to see heaven open and the angels of God ascending and descending upon the Son of Man. The Son of Man is the ladder. The Son of Man is the connection between heaven and earth. And you're going to see God's workmen, his angels, utilizing Christ. Through Christ, they are acting in order to do the will of the Father. Jesus is where we meet God. He is the link between heaven and earth. On the Son of Man, heaven's powers are unleashed through him, through his angels. Most assuredly, and so he's saying the greater things that you will see will be these things, will be the acts of God through Jesus, through his angels. Yes, miracles, but yes, also changed lives. All right. That was way too fast for verse 51. It's way more important than the time I just gave it. I do want to say one more thing before I close, however. We finished chapter 1. In chapter 1, God has introduced us to Jesus through a variety of titles. Let me show you what they are. In verse 1, he says he is the Word. Also in verse 1, he says he is God. In verse 9, he is light. Verse 17, he is Jesus Christ. Verse 29, the Lamb of God. Verse 38, Rabbi. Verse 41, Messiah. Verse 45, suffering servant. Verse 49, the Son of God. Verse 49, the King of Israel. And here in verse 51, the Son of Man. John is trying to lay out for you I'm sorry? Too fast? I'll send them to Debbie so she can send them out to the group. But the point is, John is trying to lay out here a carpet of a picture of who this man is. This man is God. This man is the Lamb of God. This man is the Son of God. And now through really the rest of the book, it is proving that is true, proving that he's divine, proving that he is God, proving that he is who he says he is. And and also then the transformation of this group of nobodies, this group of disciples, into people that change the world. So that's what we'll be looking at as we look at the rest of the gospel. I apologize for going so long. Any comments or questions before we wrap here? Powerful, powerful chapter. I mean, you could just spend a lifetime just looking at chapter 1. There's so much stuff there. Powerful stuff. All right, let's move on then to prayer requests. Stop the recording. How do I do that? Stop the recording. Here it is. Joe, prayer requests?